Okay, all right. Okay, we are back. This is the We Quit Booze Brothers, which is a podcast where we try to have honest, no fluff conversations about our various experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Mark. Yes, we are back again. It's been 2 weeks, I'm afraid. I know that's not very good in the world of podcasting and YouTubing because I don't think it helps the algorithm, but we've been very busy and we'll probably touch on that shortly. Yeah, a personal weekend, which was very enjoyable last week. So we'll share a bit more as we move forward. But great to be back, and thanks to everyone for waiting and joining us again and listening.
I'm sure life has been almost unbearable without this weekly podcast that we normally deliver. But anyway, we are back now, and as long as it makes if it helps just one person, then it's worth doing, and it seems to do that based on
Exactly.
the feedback that we get. So we'll keep plodding along. So yeah, so the conversation I think we just quickly wanted to have today, and keeping the vibes positive. I think. One of the things I really like about doing this is just to sort of almost a kind of, I was going to say weekly reminder, having just explained that we've missed a week, but a fairly regular reminder that quitting booze is a really good idea, and I think sometimes when you do quit. We sort of talk about the three phases. There's the period before you quit when you start to seriously think about it. There's the period when you actually do quit, that sort of transition between the two worlds, the two lives. And then there's living without alcohol, which, you know, um, I think it's worth always remembering why it makes so much sense. I think life can sometimes it's not a straight line. It's a complex thing, and it throws all kinds of different challenges at you from left and right. And I think even when even when you don't drink over a period of time, you can sort of normalize that. So it's well worth just remembering why we do it. And the sort of topic that we wanted to touch on today is just this concept of suddenly having a bit more time and energy to pursue things that really matter to you. And I think, so sort of being able to suddenly dream about the sorts of outcomes that you would ideally like to manifest in your life. And actually having the time and the space and the clarity and the energy to where nothing is going to get in the way of that suddenly. I've talked about this before in previous podcasts. It's one of the things that it constantly surprises me, and it is constantly worth reminding me, is that I'm able to plan, I'm able to create a vision for where I want my life to go, for the things that I want to achieve. And what's really surprised me is that I now don't wake up on a Monday morning feeling like shit, nursing my way through the first sort of two days of the week, then go out on a Wednesday night, get hammered, and sort of just limp through the rest of the week, get to the weekend, drink Friday, drink Saturday, drink Sunday, rinse and repeat, and just never get anywhere. And the loose topic of this is, dream big when you're sober. I think you do dream big when you're drinking. The problem is that you just don't have the ability to follow through. And I'll hand over to you, Matt. But there's a really great phrase which I read, which I've written down here, which is alcohol blurs ambition and fosters self-doubt, whereas sobriety sharpens focus and builds confidence. And I just think that sums it up for me. It doesn't happen immediately. It doesn't, for some of you who are maybe fairly early on or first year of not drinking, you might be feeling there are times when you might feel frustrated because you've done this brilliant thing, you've done this incredible thing, you've changed your life significantly, and maybe you're not feeling like you've got everything you perhaps wanted to achieve. But the point is that because you've removed alcohol, you've given yourself the ability to get there eventually, to get there over time. And it's just an amazing thing. I still can't quite get used to it. You know, I'm in the process right now of building some different projects. You know, I've got a few business ideas that we're pursuing, and it's just incredible that every week I'm able to actually make progress. I'm actually able to do things, and just nothing gets in the way. So I'll stop there. So I know you've got some things to say about this as well, Matt. I've got plenty more to say, obviously, but this isn't the Booze Brother podcast. This is the Booze Brothers podcast. So yeah,
It is, but it's always great to sit and listen to you, and it's always great because we are, I don't know, 700 kilometers apart, but it seems like we sat in the same room and wrote the same script. So that's what's really cool. The title of this podcast, I think, whether we call it this or not, doesn't matter, but it was Dream Big Without Booze. That was, every week we share a title via WhatsApp, just being totally honest, and we go, yeah, what do you think? Should we do this on Sunday? Should we go with something else? How are you feeling? Blah blah blah. And this was the one we went with. So for me, I think you're absolutely right. It's about the time. Stopping drinking allows you to turn dreams into reality. And one thing I want to say about dreams, and something I was thinking about, was it doesn't necessarily have to be dreams. It doesn't have to be something so big, so imaginative. I want to live in a mansion with a massive swimming pool. It doesn't have to be that necessarily. It can also be promises. And I think, if you change that word from dreams to promises, promise big without booze. And I think that's key too. So, it allows you to do the things that you say you're going to do, or at least start thinking constructively about the things you say you're going to do. An example is last weekend. I said I'd touch on it. It was our father's 80th birthday, and obviously living in Paris. To be honest, I wasn't sure if we'd be able to see him. It was things fell into place, and I said to myself, I really would like to see him. That's the dream, would be to actually do something for him. And Mark, thanks to you on your side in your organization, and us being able to book some flights early for all of us, and we all pulled it together, and it happened, and we surprised him. He had no idea, and it was the most wonderful thing. It moved him immensely, and it moved all of us immensely. And that was just a small little dream, a small little thing that we did. And that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't need to necessarily be, I'm going to, run away and open a hotel in the mountains or whatever. It can be, but it really is about what it gives back. Sobriety really does bring things back. And on the flip side, I'd say you need to think about the fact that, in my opinion, dreams are shattered by booze. And funnily enough, I was looking yesterday at some films. I'm a big film addict, and one of the things I'm still addicted to probably, but in fact, we may have a little side piece on that going forward. But I found a thing about Corey Haim. So for those of you who are too young, Corey Haim was a big heartthrob star in the 80s, and he was in films like Lucas and The Lost Boys. And sadly, he was shattered by drugs and drink. He died young. He died at 38, and he died pretty much penniless. And that's where those dreams are shattered by booze. I in fact read that his upbringing, his parents had divorced. That happens to lots of people, so that's not necessarily something that was bad. But there was even a story that I read about Peter Weller, who was in RoboCop, and we're going a long way back now, but Corey Haim apparently was on set with him when he was like a child actor, and he said to Peter Weller, "Oh, you did that really well, like that bit of acting." And Peter Weller flew off the handle, as if to say, "Who the hell are you to tell me about that?" And he asked him not to talk to him again. And apparently it's quite a pretty horrible experience as a child. But anyway, went on to be incredibly famous. His heartthrob. He was at the top of his game, and his dreams were achieved obviously when he was sober as a child, but when he got older and he became involved in drinking drugs, they were shattered, and so many people's are. So but what I would say is that you can get them back, and you can get them back through sobriety. And there are also many stories of those people, similar people, getting them back. Robbie Williams, for example, Rob Lowe. We could go on. So that's really what I wanted to say, is that yes, it allows you to dream big, but don't forget that sobriety also stops those dreams being shattered.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, we've been focusing on, the positives of it, and the damage that, alcohol causes is of course, well known. It's something that I think when you are drinking, you're not necessarily particularly honest about. And of course, one of the other massive benefits of quitting drinking is that you do, without even really knowing it very often, you inspire others. It is fascinating to me. I say without even knowing it sometimes, because since I quit drinking, sort of 3 or 4 of the people who are quite close to me have also stopped. One of them is you, Matt. You stopped after I stopped, and I know that it wasn't. I'm not taking all the credit for that, but I know for a fact that it had some impact on the way you started to think about it. Not one of my best friend, arguably, he has also stopped. But what I've also noticed is that so I go to a gym, I work out. I mean, it's obvious, you can tell, I'm sure. I don't need to, why would I even need to mention it? It's
I
obvious
probably thought we were
everybody
going to do a
goes to the
podcast on building,
yeah.
not.
But when you go to a gym regularly, you meet people and you get chatting. And there's this group of guys that they're all about my age, and there's a group of us, and we all sort of tend to work out at the same time. The number of those who have either now stopped drinking or significantly reduced how much they drink, because they talk to me and they say, you look good for your age, and you seem to work out well, and what's your secret? And of course, one of the things I say is, well, I don't drink. And of course you get this, what? You don't drink? Well, anything, nothing. You don't drink at all. And then you have the conversation, and 9 times out of 10 they'll say, yeah, fucking hell, do you know what? Honestly, I keep thinking about it, and get into a bad habit. And then, of course, they'll see me on a Monday and I go, hardly drank this weekend, or I didn't drink yesterday, and I've actually, do you know what? I've got, and there's one guy who's an ex-policeman, actually, who's now retired. He stopped for about 8 months last year. Then he started again at the end of the year, realized he hated it, and has stopped again. So, you are an inspiration without knowing it. There's so many great things attached and associated with it, which just clears the decks, which moves the chaos out of the way, the mental chaos, the actual time chaos. I mean, the financial, sort of freedom that you get from quitting drinking. I mean, I did just some rough sums before this call. I've done this before, but if you were drinking just, let's say, 7 bottles of wine a week, which that's a bottle of wine a night. But let's face it, when we were drinking, we would, you'd have
The weekends we would
just
maybe drink 2.
Yeah, just 7. That's going to cost you $10,000 a year. Which is, I don't know what that is in pounds or euros, let's say 12, 13, 14,000. Imagine if somebody just said to you, would you like 10 grand a year for doing virtually nothing? And it's not just the money you get back. Of course, it's the energy, the focus, the clarity, and you sort of compound that. If you were drinking more like what I was drinking, I reckon it was costing me about 15 to 20 grand a year, in just money that just, that went through my fingers. And I wrote a really quick list of the things that I've done since I quit drinking. And I've done more than this, but, this is just a list of, you talk about dream big and sort of things you could do. So I've sold a business, which has meant all kinds of things for us as a family. I got in shape. I was fat before I was drinking. I'm physically fitter. I've written a book. I haven't yet published that book, but I am in the process of doing so. Started a podcast with my brother, which has been great. I read much more. I worry a lot less. I've saved money, and I've rediscovered the person that I really, really am in this world. And I tell you what, there's more to this list. I could keep
Yeah.
going, but that's enough, guys. It's fucking enough. Like, you know, being present for the people who matter, inspiring others without even noticing it, breaking the cycle for future generations, building a life that feels exciting, that doesn't feel compromised. This is why we do it. And this is why we do the podcast. And this is, I don't want to sort of keep repeating myself, made some other notes up here, just make sure yeah, the clarity and the confidence to do things, maybe step outside your comfort zone, just it's all there for you. And just by doing that one thing, by just not putting any alcohol in your mouth, yeah, you'll have times where you'll think, oh, fucking hell, there's a great comment. Sorry, I will stop talking in a minute. There's a great
No, no,
comment actually somebody
keep
left
going.
on one of our last podcasts, which I really like. It was from one of the viewers actually, and he or a she, I can't remember if it's his. Sorry, I should have written the name down, but said learning to drink for me was a bit like learning to ride a bike. I could ride a bike and not ride a bike for 10 years. But if you gave me the bike, I'd be able to do it straight away. It's there. I've learned it. I can't unlearn it. I've learned to ride a bike and I will never unlearn it. Alcohol's the same. I've learned how to drink and I will never unlearn it. It's always there. And I think that's a really interesting point. It is always there. You don't forget. You don't unlearn. It will always be there. And so it's why these sorts of podcasts and having plans and having dreams and being able to follow those things through, creating a big enough why. Why do I want to do these things? That's what keeps you away from going back to the booze. That's what keeps you away. Because we say, just don't put the alcohol in your mouth. But if it were that simple, everybody would do it. But, lean into these podcasts. We'll try to deliver more content for you that gives you more sort of information, more reasons to stay on this path. And yeah, it's fucking worth it. So anyway, rant over.
Yeah. I'm not going to add anything today. I think that's a perfect way to end. So yeah, really, really great. And I think you're right. We will bring more content. We will maybe bring some guests as well. I think that would be useful. What you've mentioned is the same on my side. There are people I know, friends who have now quit drinking for their own reasons, but it's been one of the most wonderful things about quitting is, and this isn't through bashing or going, on a crusade for, you mustn't drink, thou shalt not drink. It's really been through their inquisition. I don't know if that's the right word, but they have asked the questions, started asking, a bit like I did. The thinking: what would it be like? How do people do it? What's life like when you stop? And those questions go into a bigger snowball, and then they follow suit, and it's I don't think they look back either. So yeah, lots more to come. Thank you as always for tuning in and listening. It means the world to us. And leave your comments, give us a thumbs up, share this with your friends. Yeah, we do it really for the joy of doing it.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, we'll leave it there then. Thanks everybody for listening. If you've got this far, we really appreciate it. Leave your comments, do all the things that Matt said. So one final thing we said, so one of the things that happens when you quit drinking is you find other things to do. And both Matt and I super got into reading books and watching movies. It's something that we both really, really love. And so what we thought might be just a fun thing to do, not particularly serious or involved, is if we've seen a movie that we think is good, because getting recommendations is great, book recommendations, movie recommendations. So we thought maybe do one per podcast. I don't mind starting and just mentioning a really great movie that I watched recently, which was The Whale. So I've got the notes up here. It's a psychological drama. I think it's based on a play originally, yes, but I think it was a play written by Samuel D. Hunter. It stars Brendan Fraser. It all takes place sort of in one room, but really, really terrific movie. A really incredible sort of insight into the human experience. I'll just say that. Quite a surprising movie. Will make you. It's quite an emotional watch, but worth watching. So if anybody likes movies, there's a good recommendation for you. Maybe you could do one next time, Matt. Or
Absolutely, absolutely. I've got one in mind that I saw recently. I'll give you a little teaser. It's about a pop star. So yeah, I'll share my
okay.
thoughts on that next week.
Alrighty. Brilliant. Okay, that's it. So as we always say, never quit quitting. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him. Thanks a lot.